number one role that folks had filling out this survey, full stack. Is this indicative of what they should be putting their time, energy, and effort into? 49,000 plus respondents.
What is the state of the industry that we all work in or want to work in and want to grow our careers in? What's going on, everyone? We are back with another one. Well, there has always been one thing that has stood the test of time year and year after year that has been honestly used by a lot of developers as a metric to kind of understand where we are. That's what we're discussing today. The State of Dev survey from Stack Overflow 2025. We're going to actually add a lot more nuance and context to this. That way we get a better and more fuller picture.
And is it a sign that they should switch gears or do this or do that? And so I think we're going to spend a good amount of time going through kind of all the big things that are happening, maybe look at the changes year to year, see if that should influence the things that you are doing, what you are learning, how you're moving in this industry. And so I think you're going to get a lot of value from that perspective and hopefully answer a lot of your questions that we kind of get peppered with about, oh, should I learn this or that?
Sometimes the survey has been a really great way to navigate through hype. It's been a really easy way to navigate through certain items. One prime example of that navigation of hype, honestly, is NoSQL, right? Mm-hmm. You know, people constantly talk about MERN stack or this and that. And it's an easy way to get situated with the database. But when you look at the survey, and especially when you filter it by professionals, the sheer number of professionals using it, it's a drop in the bucket when you compare it to other technologies. Now, obviously, I'm referencing 2024 and years before that. I don't really know what 2025 says, so let's kind of go over it.
Let's see. We won't be talking out wazoo here, and the whole game could have changed. We don't know.
Well, before we do that, we're forgetting one of the most important parts of the episode. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Danny Thompson. I'm the Director of Technology at this.labs and the community organizer for the Commit Your Code conference. And so if you're listening to this right now, get your tickets now. And of course, online tickets are always free, so grab your online ticket, but get them now. You're going to regret it after the fact.
And I'm one of your other co-hosts, Leon Noel, Managing Director of Engineering for a wonderful nonprofit called Resilient Coders, and community member at 100 Devs, and someone who will be at Commit Your Code very, very soon.
I can't wait.
Pumped. Yeah, let's jump into it. I think I should share my screen for this one. What do you think?
Let's do it. And we'll try and be as descriptive as possible for audio-only listeners. But,
yeah,
I mean, if you're listening to this on Spotify, for example, you can see the video if you need to. But if you're driving, focus on the road, y'all.
Please.
Geico doesn't have us as a reason for accidents that is covered, okay? So focus on the road. Be safe about this. You can always watch the video on Spotify or YouTube. If you're not following us on YouTube, please do so. Helps us out a lot. Really goes a long way. We're obviously trying to grow that audience and, make sure you can see stuff there as well. I know the lion's share of our listeners are definitely on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we appreciate that and we support y'all.
Yeah. Let's jump right into it. I mean, the first things first, right? We know that this is a survey that goes out on Stack Overflow. So there is going to be some bias here, right? Mostly people that are on Stack Overflow probably have Stack Overflow accounts. We'll probably see a breakdown of demographics. So you always got to take this with a little bit of grain of salt. The person that ran a scientific surveying company in me for a number of years is kind of lurching out here. But we can first kind of take a look at maybe who responded to the survey, because I think that might be helpful to kind of set the tone. So we can see out of the total number of respondents, which was 49,000 plus respondents,
which means probably 49,001.
Yeah, exactly. 19.
No.
They were really sending it to their brother's cousin's uncle to get over that last little hump there. But 76% of them are developers by profession, which is great, so that we know that this is hopefully going to be indicative of what professionals are using. And I do know that they do break this down by if you're a professional, not a professional, things like that. So as we see the technologies, we can see what are popular with folks in the field. A good distribution of age, kind of peaking at the 25 to 34-year-old, which is pretty common. And then seeing that we got really good representation all the way into 65 years or older, which is wonderful. Because one of the questions we always get is, hey, I'm in my 40s. Can I learn to code or be coding? And that's a huge percentage of this survey and respondents. So
yeah, and for audio only listeners, we are looking at two different bar graphs, with the age one being one giant bar graph that is showing the age of the respondents. 76% of the respondents in the surveys are professional developers, and 66% are professional developers in between the ages of 25 and 44. But you can see, what is that? 12 and a half, almost 13% of the respondents are 45 to 54-year-olds, 55 to 64-year-olds. It's over 5%. 65-year-olds, it's almost 2%. And there's less than 1% that preferred not to disclose their age. So definitely showcases a wide variety of people that were a part of this one.
I'm curious about the learning to code too. So,
I mean, that kind of makes sense though.
yeah. So the learning to code, the age definitely skews 68%, 18 to 24. But I'm really glad to see that 45 to 54 at 4%. Like there's a good mix of folks that are still trying to make this a career.
Absolutely.
Country, just so we can get this out the way, United States is at 20%. And then we have a good breakdown of kind of a whole range of questions, which makes sense.
USA is definitely the outlier, though, with the lion's share of.
Yeah. And then educational attainment, around 42% having that bachelor's degree, and 26% having a master's, 5% having a professional degree. But we have a good, let's see, almost 25+% that does not have a bachelor's degree or lower, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I wonder if some of those are like missed answers. Like a good decent percentage of respondents only did primary school. I don't know if that's accurate.
So I think we're also mixing here. I think if we could see this by professional developers, it'll probably change, right? Because the learning to code might still be small. Actually, it didn't change that much. Interesting. So maybe the learning to code is not. Okay, there we go. So the learning to code, you can see that folks are still kind of in the secondary, some college or university.
College. Which skews it. But like, if I'm looking at the total number of responses on the learning to code one, it says 4,342. What about professional developers?
Yeah.
It's 36,000. That's a big lion's share.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, hey, 75% of the responses were from professionals, obviously. So it's a good indicator. And the other thing too is like, how many of the respondents are on Stack Overflow? That's the other metric you have to see.
Cool. So, I mean, there's
by
more
the way, if you're listening
here
to this, you should be responding to the survey because it's used even for people that aren't using Stack Overflow regularly. I mean, heck, we're talking about it.
So I think that is a kind of a good leap for the demographics here. I'm kind of interested in seeing how folks, there's another one here, how do folks learn to code? And I'm really curious how this has been changing over time. Danny and I were just talking about this earlier, kind of courses on YouTube not doing as well as they used to do, and people seeking out different ways of learning technical content. And so we have all respondents, 67% are learning to code from technical documentation. That's pretty interesting.
It's good.
Yeah. I'm glad to see that. And I mean, also the rise of really good docs, right? Like React docs, things like that.
I'm a sucker for good docs.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah. I will tell you, when I first jumped into code, a lot of the docs that I ran into were very intimidating to even look at. Now, one prime example of the one docs that I often reference, and I know other people have to reference it too, Tailwind, for example, phenomenal docs.
Yeah.
Like so easy to go through.
Yep. And so good, so many good examples too. I love the Tailwind examples.
Or the new React docs. That one, you know who helped build that one? This.labs. But like, I mean, for real, compared to what it was, I remember when they first came out, everyone talked about the readability aspects alone to navigate were significantly improved. That goes a long way when you think about actually absorbing the information from it.
Only 50% of folks using videos, not associated to a specific online course. Interesting.
That's interesting.
And then 44% using AI code gen tools. So AI kind of maybe on the rise in terms of how people are learning.
I wish we could filter that by professionals and non.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting to see the difference.
And then the last thing here that I'll note, coding bootcamp, 5%.
Wow.
The decline of the boot camps is real in 2025.
I mean, anyway, I don't want to get into that. That's a whole tangent. Okay.
And then the other big thing here is learned how to use AI-enabled tools from their jobs to advance their career in the last year. Yes, I learned how to use AI-enabled tools for my job to benefit my career at 36%. So people starting to get that adoption of AI tooling coming through.
Yeah, it's interesting. I responded to a tweet even earlier about this where they were like, it's kind of tough even going to conferences because like a lot of the talks revolve around AI. I'm not interested in it. And I gave one data point for commit your code. I literally had like the lion's share of applications to talk were only on AI. And I had to literally message speakers saying, hey, we're trying to have a variety here. Can you give me talks that aren't only AI centric? And this was like a very tall order for a lot of them. Some were just absolutely, no, there's no way that I can make that happen. Yeah. Some were definitely like more understanding that we should have a variety. But it's not just what you're consuming online. It's not just rhetoric that you're hearing. It's even what people want to talk about. And so when that's the whole central theme everywhere, it's very, very difficult for people not to want to jump into it, especially when you're being pressured by your organization to adopt those practices as well.
Yep. And I think this next one here is a really big thing for our audience to understand. The number one role that folks had filling out this survey, full stack. It's not a specialty anymore. It's not a back end. It's not a front end. It's a full stack developer. That has to be like definitely like a more modern thing in 2025 to have that, that to not be the specialized. And I think this is one of the big pieces of advice that folks often get is to like specialize, to have that career growth or monetary growth. And we're seeing that full stack is kind of dominant here in these responses. And so for folks that are listening, it's not enough just to know front end or back end anymore. You need to have that blend of skills that help you solve real problems.
Oh, man, I was on a call 3 days ago. He's a staff software engineer out of Pakistan, and he was working for a company remote in America. He lost his job in January. He still hasn't been able to land anything. And of course, we go through the call. It's very obvious in certain areas why he's not having a lot of luck, and he's working on it now. But he even said, I have been front end for like 5 years. He's like, prior to that, I was like .NET, Angular, all that good stuff. But he's like, I am not even finding front end only roles to apply to at the level that I did before. Especially like when we're talking about being remote, right? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I've said for over 2 years online, there's tons of records of it. Hey, I've seen a massive drop in front end only opportunities. Yep. Some people try to push back, but the reality was over time, you start seeing the naysayers start disappearing more and more and more because it started becoming very obvious. And this right here is very indicative of that. It's very difficult at this current stage to find a front end only opportunity. And one thing that I'd say too, like even like compounding that, why do you think most bootcamps switched to that full stack model? Yeah. It wasn't because it was fun. It was because they even knew it was harder for a junior to jump in if they only knew front end, because they needed to be full stack for the market. And now, especially in 2025, it's more clear than ever before. But Satya Nadella said something on a podcast, I believe, or it was a TV interview, one of the two that I heard this from. And he said, previous advice has always been to go T-shaped, like have your surface level and have an area that you dig deep in. He said now it's more about how easily can you move subject to subject or concept to concept, and then going down that rabbit hole if you need to. But agility matters more now than ever before.
And there's more stuff here about kind of the respondents, how many years of work experience, 1 to 5 years being around 25%, 6 to 10 years being another 20%. And then I want to kind of get away from kind of the demographics so we can start seeing the technologies and things like that. But by and far, the biggest industry is software development, 52%. So that kind of wraps up the people that took the survey, which is really good. We wanted to like have an understanding.
Baseline.
This is mainly professional developers, a good representation in the United States, a good representation of folks that have been coding for a while, that are starting to adopt AI tooling, that are reading technical documentation as their primary way. So a lot of kind of groundwork as we move into the technologies here. So
shocker for number one.
Yeah. So the programming, scripting, and markup languages with the most adoption, and the top of the charts, JavaScript, 66%. And the odd thing here is that TypeScript is down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slots down at 43%. And I wonder if it's different between learning to code and professional. So professional developers and then learning to code. Wow. TypeScript drops down to 31% for learning to code versus being in the 40s for professional, almost 50% as professional developers.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me because even when I talk about TypeScript, beginners often act like I'm saying something that should not even be said.
Yeah.
Which, it is what it is on that, right? But the reality is, especially at the enterprise level, I'm finding more and more adoption. I actually wrote a talk on TypeScript last year, and I actually mentioned where TypeScript was. Hold on. What is this now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that still accurate? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it moved up. It looks like from the last survey, TypeScript was in the 8th spot for professional developers. Now it's in 6th, which shows. But the reality too is with HTML, CSS in there, and then pairing that with JavaScript. To be honest, I feel like JavaScript and TypeScript should kind of almost be lumped together. It's kind of a little weird to me that it's separated. Like I remember GitHub. I believe it was GitHub showed the most used languages and tools that people were using on GitHub, and like Python was number 1, and then JavaScript and TypeScript were number 2 and 3. And I was like, come on, like,
And there was something weird about 2, right? That was like, it's like if you like separated out 2.7 or something like that, it like dropped significantly. There was something weird about that number, I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, JavaScript still dominant. They said Python is on the rise, obviously with AI. So it's interesting to see. Let's see.
It's also interesting when they show backend languages. Like I see C# and Java near the top, right? Which is great. Go is above it. PHP is above it. All the good. I mean below, and Rust is below that. You never see Node differentiated. Like I would love to see that separated to see what that actually looks like in the industry to understand. Like, but hey, the fact that C# and Java are in the top 10 showcases. Might not be the shiny thing, but heck, a lot of companies are using it.
I bet you they're lumping that into JavaScript.
Of course.
Yeah. Just as like a environment, And then database is kind of what we were talking about earlier. I'm gonna keep it on professional developers.
We'll get back to the show in a second, but first, a word from our sponsors. Financial literacy is important, especially if you are in a position where you are changing careers and income brackets. More income can create larger financial issues if you don't budget correctly. So this episode is sponsored by Lucas Casares, certified financial planner and founder of Level Up Financial Planning, where he specializes in serving early and mid-career tech professionals to help you take your financial confidence to the next level.
Danny and I have helped thousands of people level up in tech, often going from 0 to 6-figure careers, and we've seen all kinds of mistakes. Level Up Financial Planning helps you gain clarity on all of your finances. This includes prioritizing manager-employer stock, retirement planning, tax planning and preparation, college planning, and as a special deal for our listeners, you get a complimentary meeting with Lucas. So please visit levelupfinancialplanning.com to find out more.
He's been a great supporter of the show, and to be honest, a lot of people have already checked him out. I highly recommend checking him out. Now back to the show.
Postgres at the top.
That's what I felt. It's exactly what I felt.
I'm shocked that SQL's
Are you
not.
shocked?
I mean, I definitely see them. They got motion right now for sure, but I just didn't know that it was that dominant. 60% versus the 40%. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a little surprising to me. It's also
interesting.
It's pretty interesting to see MongoDB still pretty high up there, 25%. Interesting to see Redis on the move as well.
I'm actually Googling something in real time. So of the top 5 or 6 databases that professionals use, the top 4 are all SQL.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for you if you are a professional or someone that sees all the hype around NoSQL, this and that. I'm not saying NoSQL isn't valuable, but the top 4 most widely utilized databases among professionals are all SQL based. Just let that sink in. I know everyone talks about MERNstack, and I have nothing against that company, but it's very easy to see where the lion's share of opportunities lie.
Yeah. I love MERN-Stack as a learning tool. I love
Yeah.
MongoDB as a
I
learning
agree.
tool. But if we're looking at the numbers here, once you've learned, it's
Yeah.
time to pick up another tool and keep that growth going for sure.
And you know why I like that distinction is because sometimes you talk to, let's say, a student or a beginner, and then you tell them there's more to learn. They feel like they just got crushed by reality. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're barely scratching the surface. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much that needs to go into that. That's a whole podcast episode, I think. But just let that realization hit a little.
Cloud
Docker.
development. The most popular tool moved from a popular tool to a near universal one, and that's Docker. 71%. All respondents.
NPM being a cloud development tool? That's interesting. I wouldn't have lumped that in there in my mind.
Yeah. AWS. Yep. Yeah, kind of like all the interesting ones. Homebrew. So up there for all the macOS folks. And then Beat just inching their way up.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when people would ask me what cloud they should be learning, like if they wanted to jump into the cloud space, my answer has always been AWS. Not because I like Amazon or AWS that much, but it's hard to be disingenuous to not act like they're the number one cloud provider that most companies are probably utilizing. And I think the survey is very indicative of that. It's a very big gap between AWS and all the others.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more than double. Oh, actually, it is double. Sorry, I was reading the wrong number.
Let's see here. Web frameworks and technologies. Oh, there you go. No top dog there. 48%.
Well,
React,
what about
44%.
professionals?
Yeah, let's do that. Good call.
It went
No,
up
it's still
49.
top dog. jQuery at 24%. Love to see
Dang.
it.
I love to see
it.
We talked about that literally in the last episode.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the last episode, we disproved some programming myths, and one of them is that jQuery is completely dead, which I even believed years ago, and I was foolish enough to say online. %.
Beating out Next. I love it.
Whoa. Okay, that's interesting.
That's pretty wild. Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, and the other thing here is that they're all JavaScript family, right? Like,
Yeah.
Express still coming up here. Yeah.
I was gonna say when you have like the lion's share of people using JavaScript, it makes sense that would be where it leans towards. But it's still pretty impressive as professionals that that's there. But I will say, what I find pretty impressive is top 5 ASP.NET Core is in the top 5, and Spring Boot is within the top 10.
We've got some other stuff coming up here too.
Yeah,
WordPress still out there kicking.
Yeah, it's not going.
Some other PHP stuff starting to
IDEs,
hit the rise.
No real surprise here.
Yeah. Dominant. VS Code still top IDE 75%. Notepad++ still clawing along here.
Very interesting to see Cursor at the 6th position in such a short period of time.
Such a short period of time.
I also see Windsurf on the list. I see Lovable on the list. Bolt is on the list. Obviously, lower percentages, being 5%, less than 5%, all of them. But it's very, very interesting. Claude Code, almost 10% is interesting.
And Vim being well represented here. And then also Neovim, too, at 24 and 14% respectively. So definitely, I mean, we all knew it would be Visual Studio Code would be the top IDE. I'm pretty shocked, like you said, to see Cursor so high so quickly.
Yeah, but I will say the 4th one being IntelliJ, JetBrains product, but obviously used for Java. Number 4, it's pretty impressive to see how a big portion of the Java community goes directly to that IDE, and that kind of just proves that one there. There's no real arguments on that. And with professional developers, it's number 3.
Bumps up, yeah.
All right.
Let's see. They have some stuff that's specific to Stack Overflow. And then where do the community platforms that folks are hanging out on? And so, of course, it's a Stack Overflow survey. So you got Stack Overflow, but GitHub, YouTube, Reddit, all the usuals that we'd expect. Oh, okay. And then large language models that professional developers are using. 80. Wow. Okay, this is interesting. So
I have a response if you think it's interesting.
yeah, we're looking at 2 large language models here. We have 81% ChatGPT or OpenAI GPT. Let's leave it at that. And then Claude coming in at 44%, half of what OpenAI is bringing in. Do you think this is just because of the client? Like what do you think is going on here?
This is 100% B2B sales related. And so a lot of the clients that we have been brought in to help with like AI enablement and all these other offerings, we have to work within the security guidelines of their CISO that's set forth and whatnot. They would not touch any other LLM model simply because of security fears.
Wow. Interesting.
I will be very interested to see how this changes over the next like 24 months.
Yeah.
Because now we're starting to see companies allow Anthropic products and Claude to be used. But for the last like year, any conversation we're in is like, if it's not OpenAI, we can't touch it.
Huh. And because this is why I always like looking at this survey each year, just because I find that I'm just in that bubble on Twitter, right? And I'm in that bubble on Twitter right now where it just seems the dominant use for developers is Sonnet specifically 4. And my own use. Yeah. But to see this, the enterprise adoption.
Even for me, I had this conversation earlier this morning with people on my team, and the way that I see LLMs growing is 2 things are going to happen. One, SLM is going to become the norm, small language models. Right now, everybody uses large language models. But the other thing that's going to happen is there will be LLM models that is widely revered as they just excel at this one thing really well. Yeah. And so my assumption would be the future holds OpenAI being the best LLM model in the world in regards to textual-based content. The best model in the world will be Claude for coding-related content. Gemini will be revered as the best model in the world for video and image-related content. Like Imagen 4 and VO3 and Nano Banana that just came out. Like, they're phenomenal at image-related items. Gemini is pretty decent right now at coding-related items, which I think kind of goes back also to why their image is so good, because the code is so strong. But when it comes to text, I completely disregard Gemini. I've not had a good experience at all with it. When it comes to Anthropic and Claude, when it comes to text, it's very emotionless and kind of bleh. So I don't even use it for textual based things. But OpenAI, when it comes to text, it opens doors.
Yeah, OpenAI for me right now, text and oddly like image, like taking images and like searching images, getting the data out of images has been really good. Definitely Claude for any coding related stuff. What I've been interested in is like routing, like I like how to route different requests to different LLMs. Definitely we could do like a deeper dive on that in another episode, but I think that's gonna be a bigger thing, especially as we have like these more specialized LLMs and things like that to be able to route the appropriate request to the right model at the right time. It's gonna be fun.
Environment variables, man. I do all that, and just based on the environment I wanted to go to, that's what my code is like the if condition of, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been playing around with like the local agent stuff, right? Where you can they can kick off a sub agent that goes and does something for you, and that having the ability to switch models is kind of a game changer.
Interesting. I really like that thought process. Okay.
Let's see. Code documentation and collaborations tools, GitHub leading the pack, and then the one that shall not be named, Jira, coming in number 2. GitLab throwing down at 35%. That's good to see. I always like to make sure, like there's competition in that space. And speaking of competition in space, so many new Git alternatives popping up right now that I think we have to do a whole episode on eventually.
Yeah, I do. I agree. It's been on my radar too. We've been talking about it at work.
I haven't played with them enough to speak on it at depth, but definitely want to play around with them more in the coming weeks. And then we got to do an episode on it. But especially even going back to the AI stuff, just having better Git work tree workflows and stuff like that. I think there could be a whole different paradigm here.
Monday.com. Code documentation?
I guess just because they're like planning their code stuff in it. That's one company got an enterprise account and they're forcing their developers to use it. It's just one big Fortune 100 company, you know. That's hilarious. I don't know
how they would do it like that, but all right. I had to look into that.
Also interesting to see things like Miro on here. which was just like a
Miro's great,
whiteboarding
though.
software
Yeah.
at first, and now it does a lot more. But to go from a whiteboard to topping these charts is pretty interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, even for the cohort that we do in Dallas, a lot of the teams use Miro as a way to bring in examples of designs that they could reference to get ideas to build a project off of.
Yep.
And they will even literally start wireframing in Miro.
Yeah.
So like that's been pretty good to use for that.
Operating systems, Windows dominant with 56%, macOS at 32%.
Well, 56% is personal use.
Personal use.
So if you're gaming or anything like that, that totally tracks for me.
Professional use just below 50%. And then it's funny to see personal professional use so closely tied with macOS.
Yeah,
32%.
which makes sense.
And interesting. Oh, I really,
if I didn't game at all or I didn't do anything video related as far as like content goes, I would probably be Mac all the time.
Yeah. Same. And the interesting thing is they split out GNU Linux into non-WSL and WSL, like the Windows subsystem for Linux, because it's pretty close. That's wild.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
And then admired and desired. To better gauge hype versus reality, we created a visualization that shows the distance between the proportion of respondents who want to use a technology and the proportion of users that have the same technology in the past year and want to continue using it. So like have used versus want to use. And so the biggest gaps are Rust, where it's the most admired, but maybe not the most used. Interesting.
There's no jobs. That's why.
Zig.
Same thing with Elixir. 5% of people use it. 65% want to use it. I mean, there's just no job. And so that's the dictation to me that has always existed. Like if your goal is to grow your career, then you're going to want to use something that's very in demand. So that's why you see JavaScript, for example, the desired and admired is so close together compared to any other technology I see on this, because if you're using it, you definitely got a job with it.
This is interesting. Okay. And then same thing for databases. Pretty big gaps on some of these. DuckDB, Valky. I don't know. Do you know I've never heard of Valky before. That is. I'll have to look that up.
No.
Some other interesting ones. Pocketbase. And then, again, like the tightest are the ones that people are actually using professionally to get stuff done.
And the comment on the side, the answer lies with the most admired technology to be Postgres, ranked highest for both admired and desired since 2023.
Wow.
What about MongoDB? What is the desired and admired for that? I'm just curious. Oh,
45 and 17. Yeah. Which I'm surprised the admired is so high on that. I feel like the tide has turned away from it. There's always going to be great use cases for MongoDB, but I actually thought maybe that would be a tighter gap. Cloud development. People want to be using Cargo, but not actually using it. Supabase is the interesting one here. 50% admired, but only 5.4 actually using it. Huh. And then, unfortunately, Heroku fell all the way down. Still, one of the saddest moments is the cancellation of Heroku's free tier.
It was bad.
Web frameworks and technologies. What? .NET being that admired, and 14% there, and then
it's
Phoenix
.NET Core versus .NET.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good call. And then the one that we knew would probably happen here, Phoenix, right? The Elixir framework, and so 79% admired, but only 4% actually getting to do it. All right, dev IDs.
Almost
Neovim,
no.
and they got some other Stack Overflow and community platform stuff here. Large language models coming down to most desired. Most admired is Claude Sonnet, which I would have guessed.
Because they can't use it.
See what else they got in here. Some of the other smaller models are pretty interesting too.
Yeah, there's going to always be a ton of them. Like I see Perplexity on there.
Mm-hmm.
Alibaba's Quen is on there. I wonder why that one in particular is so desired, especially with the lion's share of respondents being US based. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe more of the local stuff. Maybe like the local communities want those. Yeah. And then Jira steps down as the most desired tool for code documentation and collaboration. And the new top desired tool is GitHub.
But they separate it because you're not documenting in Jira, you're documenting everything in Confluence.
Yeah.
So the fact that they separated the both Jira and Confluence in the survey is interesting.
And then I love that the most admired is Markdown file.
Yeah, dude. I've even gotten to the habit now of like writing blog posts in Markdown because it's just so much easier.
Yeah. All right. Next section here, worked with versus want to work with programming, scripting, and markup languages. Python developers aspire to use Rust and Go as the path to high performance programming. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that it is interesting. I wrote Go for 2 years, and as far as like speed and stuff, it's great, but there's still a lot that can be done to improve it. Rust is definitely like that sweet spot.
No. And then for databases, developers using MongoDB or Redis show a strong desire to also work in Postgres. Yeah. Makes sense. Cloud development's a little different. I still getting caught up on NPM being part of cloud development. And then web frameworks and technologies. Node.js users want to use React, Next, and Vue. This in case those wishing to skill up in a role that can handle more aspects of the code base, which goes back to the idea of being more full stack than back or front. Yeah. Cool. Let's see, get into some of the overflow and community tags here. Large language model stuff again. But that's kind of all the developer pieces. They have a whole section on AI that I think we should take a dip through.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Cool. All right. So this is kind of where it gets interesting in terms of AI adoption. So AI tools in the development process. 84% of respondents are using or planning to use AI tools in their development process. An increase over last year, 76%. This year, we can see 51% of professional developers use AI tools daily. Danny's been literally screaming it every single day from the mountaintops that AI is here. If you want to not now be in the minority of folks not incorporating AI tools daily, this is your sign. Don't delay. Start today. This is a massive increase. If you delay another 6 months, and I don't ever really like to use this word loosely, you're behind. You're just talking about individuals going to be able to learn, grow, develop with a whole new skill that you do not have. You have to pick up these things today.
Should I go to sleep? I already know what this is about to be. I haven't seen it, but I already know.
It's always weird to see the gremlins come out when you talk about this stuff too. Because you'll have like the turbo nerd who's like, well, AI is going to like come to a confluence of like where you don't have to know any of this because AI will be that good. It's like, bro, you got years before any of this stuff becomes the like even something you can trust fully for replacing some aspects of your code base, right? But it's adding so much speed to any developer that you just want the speed benefits, regardless of your take on AI, your hot take on AI, where it's going to be, where it's going to go to. It doesn't matter. Like right now, your speed of development can be so much faster when you adopt AI into your workflow that it's worth learning these tools. Yeah, I feel like it feels like to me the don't learn the code all over again. Like, don't learn the code because the AI will take the job. Don't learn the code because all the jobs are going to be offshored. I feel like there's like this segment of developers that are kind of still putting that out there. Like, hey, don't learn this AI stuff because, oh, there was this one paper that it was a 19% reduction in development speed, or the AI will get too good and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Anyway, like you shouldn't have invested learning. So like, there's just like this negativity out there. And I just think it's misguided. And if you're somebody that's learning, somebody that's developing, especially early in your career, you just want to adopt these tools as most of the market is adopting them already.
Yeah. The one caveat I always go back to on this is The people that yield the highest levels of success with AI tooling are ones that have very strong fundamentals and foundations in programming. And so don't allow this to become the crutch and it erodes your programming fundamentals. This is the only fear I have with beginners and students, is you leverage it so much that you don't know why something is happening. It's also the reason why I'm anti too many levels of abstraction on things, because then it just becomes a magic trick instead of why this operation is occurring the way that it is. And so don't get in that rabbit hole, or don't get in that situation that you don't know why something is operating the way it should be.
It's interesting, an increase in higher overall favorable sentiment at 61% than those learning to code at 53%. So again, like once you have those skills, it's easier to utilize these tools in a way that's beneficial to you. Conversely, uses positive sentiment for AI tools has decreased in 2025.
Yeah,
it's going down. People are starting to see the reality.
Professionals show
what it can
a higher overall favorable sentiment at 61% than those learning to code. That's the decrease.
Yeah, I think we realize that they're not magic, right? It's not going to be this runaway magic fairy tale.
Dude, again, going back to Twitter, there was a tweet that I saw this morning, or it was yesterday, one of the two, and the guy was like, man, remember when Copilot first came out and the way you used it and how you felt then versus now? And I was like, yeah, then. I was like, this is literally magic of magic. And now it's like Copilot's come a long way, but it's still like you're barely scratching the surface of AI tooling at that point.
Yep. Accuracy of AI tools. More developers actively distrust the accuracy of AI tools than trust it. Good. Yeah, that was good. AI tools' ability to handle complex tasks. In 2024, 35% of professional developers already believed that AI tools struggled with complex tasks. This year, that number has dropped to 29% amongst professional developers, and it's consistent amongst experience levels. This is interesting. As this becomes, this is where I think the biggest kind of, like, this is where every company wants to get to, right? Where these complex tasks people feel more and more confident on. If you're any type of company that's doing an AI coding tool, like this should be your North Star for sure.
And I think it is. I think the thing that people don't realize is if AI is doing anything that's very predictable, super easy.
Yeah.
Where it really, truly struggles is unpredictability.
Yep. And then AI development in the workflow. Developers show the most resistance to using AI for high responsibility systemic tasks like deployment and monitoring.
Nice.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I also see currently mostly use AI for searching for answers. I think that's a really great way to like get an idea. Over 54% are searching for answers, and it helps you get the idea to get you back on the right path. You no longer spend hours and hours trying to figure out something where it may take 10 minutes to now debug that scenario.
Yep.
So you save a lot of time just off of that alone.
Yeah. Any LLM that has search access, right? Just being able to pull in all the most recent stuff, give you good guidance is huge.
I love the second one. Did we talk about this on the podcast? I feel like we did, but I don't recall. Generating content or synthetic data, 35 and almost 36%. Did we talk about this? Like one of my favorite use cases. Yeah. One of my absolute favorite use cases of AI is around creating unit tests, but not actually the creation of the unit test itself, but mocking the data for me, because that has always been a very time heavy task. But by having AI do it, it takes seconds to mock the data that you need for your test.
Yep. Love it. And then also one of my favorite is helping you document and create some extra kind of comments and things that you might need to know what's going on in code bases, which is really nice.
Yep. Big fan of that too.
Let's see. And then you kind of go into like satisfaction ratings and things like that, which I think are okay here. And then frustrations. The single biggest frustrations by 66% of developers is dealing with AI solutions that are almost right, but not quite.
This is... Sorry. My frustration is showing, because this is the one thing that bothers me about this, where if I were to give you, let's say we're working on Project Leon, and I was to give you code, and I'm like, hey, dude, I'm like 80% of the way there. Your reaction would then be like, oh, let me work out the last 20%.
Yep.
Right. But because AI made it, we're no longer like, hey, got me 80% of the way there. Let me work out the rest. It's no, I need to keep prompting, keep pushing, keep iterating, and getting more frustrated to get the last 20%. Because my goal now, because AI is doing it, should be a one shot instead of, hey, this was a 3-day task. I saved 80% of my time, which means it literally saved me 2 days and 5 hours, give or take, right?
Yep.
It got me 80% of the way. So I could do a 3-day task in 4 hours. No, that's unacceptable. I should be able to do a 3-day task in 10 minutes, which is just wild because the reality is we shouldn't be pushing it that way. And I just don't know why when we come to prompting, we lose sight that we're still a developer sometimes.
Yeah. I think there has to be like some deep psychological reason for this. I feel like there's something
there could
about
be.
human nature that this is becoming true. My new way of doing a lot of my AI tooling is if I get a one shot back that gets me 80% of the way, that's good for me to figure out like, all right, this is the path they took. I wasn't maybe thinking about going down this direction. I understand why they're going this way, and I delete it on, I do it myself. Right? Like a lot of times it's just, it helps me to like iterate on different approaches, different ways to go about solving it. And then just seeing that's like, oh, that makes more sense. And then I can kind of get there on my own from that point forward. But it's kind of helping me with a lot more of that, like more like a thought partner, right? Not necessarily just a code generator. And that thought partner has been helping me kind of get through a lot of stuff pretty quickly. So I'm kind of not frustrated by the 80% because I'm using it in a slightly different way, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. AI and humans in the future. In the future with advanced AI, the number one reason developers would still ask a person for help is that we don't trust the AI answers. Yeah, I think this is going to be a big thing for a while, like needing the human in the loop, the human sign off.
I don't see that changing anytime soon.
And then vibe coding. Most respondents are not vibe coding, 72%. An additional 5% are empathetic, but not being part of their development workflow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, here's the thing. In my opinion, it is not that they're not vibe coding. I think the actual reality is they're not doing it in the way the term and the verbiage of vibe coding was developed. So when people think and hear vibe coding, they think of someone just randomly talking with no thought and just trying to build something. But the reality is there are tons of developers that are leveraging AI that have created really long, structured, well thought out prompts via voice. That doesn't feel like it's vibe coding. And they don't even term it as vibe coding. So the verbiage is the problem more than the actual act of either typing or prompting in a way that you may be using voice.
AI agents are not yet mainstream. Majority of developers, 50%, either don't use agents or stick to simpler AI tools. And a significant portion, 30%, have no plans to adopt them.
Yeah, I say most people, I won't say all, I don't like blanket statements, but most people that don't use AI agents don't really understand what can be done with them. Like they haven't figured that part out. They haven't seen it. And so most people that have seen agents like really streamlined, and I'm talking about simple stuff, man. Like once you can get an automation that you know works effectively, that's a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this kind of goes back to that earlier note they had where it was like 53% of folks are just using it as an answer engine. It's a better Google. So I think we're still in the days of where most people are treating AI as a better Google. Yeah. And if you're just dipping your toes past a better Google and you're looking into AI agents, AI agent orchestration, MCP, all that fun stuff, you're going into the world that will be the future that a lot of folks maybe just haven't explored yet. People are saying that 50% agree that they've had a positive effect on their productivity. That's cool. And then it is showing that the uses are in software engineering. Cool. Impact of AI agents. The most recognized impacts are personal efficiency gains and not team-wide impact. Approximately 7% of agent users agree that agents have reduced the time spent on specific development tasks, and 69% have agreed that it increased their productivity. Last night, this is like with AI, the best part about playing with this AI stuff is every once in a while you're just like stunned. Like, I can't believe technology just did that. And that's my favorite part of all this AI stuff. So I was using Goose last night and I was just talking to Goose and I said, Goose, take a look at what's on display number 2 and fix it. And Goose was able to, I have 3 different monitors, go to that specific monitor, see that I had a CSS file open. I specifically left off a semicolon from my CSS. It knew that it was CSS. It took a screenshot, handed it off to Claude, came back knowing that the semicolon was missing, and then added the semicolon for me. All I had to do is tell it to fix what was on that display, and it did everything else for me, and it worked. Mind blown, jaw on the floor. And this is day 0 of what we're going to be at in the future.
Yeah. You want to move on to the question? We got this in an hour.
Yeah. Maybe there's any other big things here. Agent on the box tools. Yeah, a lot of kind of different pieces here. Work, employment status. 7% are likely to be employed, which was good to see. Work remote, still pretty heavily having remote as an option, 32%. And then the salary, I guess, would be the other big thing here. Salary by developer type. Kind of your senior executives are higher up. And then developer full stack at 72,000. Let's look just in the United States. This is really important for people to see too. Developer full stack, 138,000. And so this is across all skill sets and experiences. I feel like sometimes people see it as, of course, as a 6-figure career, but realize that that 6-figure career doesn't have to come out the gate, that a lot of people work up to this level of salary. Yeah.
All right, y'all, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the podcast, including mine. It is the Ask Danny and Leon a question. This question actually comes by way of YouTube comments.
Mm-hmm.
We've been getting a lot of YouTube comments. Thank you so much. We try to check them all. We try to respond and show love when we can. This one is, you mentioned about trying to go deeper in concepts. And so on CSS, should I just focus on learning CSS or should I stop now and learn Tailwind?
Fundamentals first, always for me. I'm a big fan of fundamentals. I'm the person that teaches floats still, which gets me all the hate in the world. But then every once in a while, somebody's like, Leon, I don't understand the box model. I'm like, well, if you had learned floats originally, you'd feel better with the box model. You'd understand where that default margin's coming from and what you can do to get rid of it, right? So there's for me, it's fundamentals are always going to win out, especially in the AI age. Fundamentals first, and so you don't have to go as deep as floats, but understanding layout, understanding a modern layout system like Flex, understanding all the basics of how things work, rhyme and reason is great. And then Tailwind can speed up your process for a lot of this stuff. But you're likely to join a team that might not be using Tailwind. And then what do you do? And so I'd rather you learn that as part of your learning process, learn the fundamentals. That way you have more flexibility in any direction you go in a code base.
Yeah, I actually think, is this hot take?
Hot take city, let's go.
I think it's impossible to be effective at Tailwind without CSS. You know why? Because when the Tailwind code or syntax doesn't respond in the way that you want to, what is the default reaction? At apply in a CSS file, and then you're writing actual CSS code. Yep. And so if you don't know CSS, how could you ever fill in those at applies and know what it is that you're typing? Now, if you want to leverage AI, since we've been talking about a lot of this episode, sure, you can get the solutions for that. You won't know what's happening. And so when you run into that problem again, you won't know how to solve it. So the idea is you need to know CSS in order to use it effectively, because you're going to use stuff like at applies. You're going to create custom themes and syntax that you can leverage and utilize as well within Tailwind. I love Tailwind. I loved it before it was cool, which is very weird to say because I was on Twitter and I literally had tweets where I would talk about Tailwind and people were negative about it. And then everyone started adopting it. But the only reason why I had the luxury to use it earlier is the company that I worked at was using it. So that was my true first introduction to it. I always hated Bootstrap because I always thought all the websites looked identical. And it was very easy to see which websites use Bootstrap. So I've never liked Bootstrap since the beginning. That's just my personal preference on that one. Because everyone used it. But Tailwind gave you that customizability that I really, really loved. I still love Tailwind. I try to reach for it whenever I can because it is way faster, especially when you know the syntax. But you need to have strong fundamentals in CSS in order to leverage it appropriately. That's just my opinion on it. So I would not stop learning CSS. I would definitely dig in deeper in that way because no matter what you pick, you're going to end up effective if you know CSS, because what if they're using their own custom design libraries like a lot of companies utilize?
Yeah.
I've worked at 2 different companies in my career that all use custom CSS libraries that they built themselves for their client components and things like that. And so you needed to know how to utilize that, read it, and adjust it, or make PRs to it so that way your team could use it effectively. So neither one of those companies, and they're both Fortune 500s, are utilizing it or leveraging it. So you need to know CSS in that regard. So I would say if your option is learn CSS or learn Tailwind, learn CSS first and then pick up Tailwind after the fact. Hope that helps. Y'all, it's been real. It's been fun. And we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.